So this is Keanu, and I went to have a meeting with Boom, a general meeting, and we kind of shared ideas about what we were doing and looking to create. And I pitched them the idea of this character, Berserker, and they liked it, and they said, "Would you like to make a comic book of it?" And I said, "Absolutely, yes, please." And then they started to put the team together. And the first person to join the team was Matt Kindt, the incredible Matt Kindt. Um, and then uh, they introduced us to Ron Garney, the amazing Ron Garney, to draw it. Um, and then previously to that, they spoke to Raphael Grompa to do, and they agreed to do some conceptual art on, on the character Berserker, and the first couple of covers. Yeah, so I also have to include here on the team is Bill Crabtree, who's doing color, and Clem Robbins, who's doing the lettering. Because I'd never made a comic book before, so for me it was I had read a bunch of comics, so I had seen the credits before, but I didn't know how the art was made. And so it kind of was a learning curve for me. To me, it felt very like how movies are made. Write the script, have a cinematographer. The cinematographer, then here you need production design, you need color, and so all of these different creatives who were putting it all together felt familiar to me. Um, and then, so Matt, do you want to talk about what happened when we started to try and do the scripts?
Yeah, we kind of sit down and just talk it out and spitball back and forth. I think you came in with all the big ideas, and so then it was a matter of like, well, how do we contain all that? How do we break it down into bite-sized chunks of like issues? And then like I've been doing comics 20 years, so I'm always thinking like 24-page, 22-page chunks, and just trying to figure out how we can divide it up. But then, yeah, I think you came in with those big ideas, and we just like almost like like it was almost like a role-playing game in some ways, where like you play B, and then I started inhabiting some of the other roles, maybe Caldwell, a little bit of Diana, and we just would bounce off each other to sort of and then it's not much different. Our process together isn't much different than what I would do on my own, which is we come up with the outline, and then a more detailed outline, and then script, and then we go over the script, and then dialogue. You do a dialogue pass and fix all the dialogue, and it's just and then we get to the point where it's readable by Ron.
Yeah, I mean, we ship it off to the editors. We have a great editor in Eric Harburn and Matt Gagnon. And so then, Matt and I kind of cooked this thing up, and then we hand it off to the maestro. And
Me.
that's you, Ron.
Yeah, that's me.
We're like, here, fix it.
They're very well, I've been fortunate to actually be working with a couple of guys who are as detail oriented as they are, because I get so lost in it. I mean, I'm at this, up to 10, 12 hours a day at times, and I have to get into the details, and sometimes I miss things, and they're very, very particular, particularly Keanu. He really looks into everything, and what he likes and doesn't like, what he thinks makes sense and doesn't make sense. And it's great because it helps fill in some gaps that I might have missed, or I might have to get back to, but it reaffirms what I was thinking. So it's been good in that regard for me, in a unique way that I hadn't really had before with any other writer. Most of the time in my career at 35 years, I do the work and I don't really get any commentary back. turn it in there. Oh, it's great. But here it's more like, hey, you think we can move this because I want this guy to say this, or and so it's been very helpful for me. And I think at the end of the day, it creates a much more cohesive product because we're all on the same page, seeing the same vision. So yeah, it's been nothing but enjoyable for me in that regard.
I mean, it's pretty great. It's just one of those things I wouldn't have anticipated ever happening. And then at the beginning, I think I was a little apprehensive. I don't always like collaborating, because like comics is, and Ron, this is kind of a lonely activity, and writing is a lonely thing. So I think the older I've gotten, the more I've been open to collaborating, and then having somebody, and what I realize is it depends on who the collaborator is, who's your partner, and I've never worked with somebody as detail oriented as Keanu, and also as generous with time and like the effort. Like if I'm working with somebody that's putting in as much or more effort than me, then it makes me want to work harder. And I think that's kind of what has been sort of the relationship, is like, we've just been, I can't tell you how many hours and how much time we poured into making this thing, and making it right, not just like getting it done, but just making it right. And no, it's been so fun, at least for me.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with that. I was pleasantly surprised at how available Keanu was. I didn't talk to Matt as much at first, but it was great because we finally got to meet each other all in person for the first time, and even though we've been sort of separate, once we got together, it was a real bond there. I felt that really transcended the whole project. So that to me was very gratifying, because you don't really get to feel that in a lot of ways when you're doing this. Like Matt said, we're very cooped up here. It's very isolating, and it can be very, very lonely. So it just to be together in person, really was a very full experience, in every sense of the word. So I've it's been something that I think has been very unique for our careers, maybe for all of us, I would hope. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was really great to be able to collaborate, and then to meet Matt, and then go through the process of riffing, and then be introduced to his process of like outlines and then drafts. Because I would just go off and play the characters, and then I saw what would come back. Was the craft and the talent. Like I might have all of these ideas, and he might have all these ideas, but then he would shape it, craft it, understanding the form, the art form, and I was just really moved by it. And then to you know meeting Ron and seeing some of his work, and then actually seeing it come to life, uh, has been thrilling, and
Mhm.
it's a comic book I really like. Like the drawing. I mean, I think what Ron does with emotion, you know, some of the emotion and the drama of the characters, and the pathos and the suffering and the grief. Um, he's so good at portraying characterization, and then to see the dynamic
Dynamism.
of 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 the violence, and then the storytelling. Again, just like really
Yeah.
appreciating the craft, and then seeing the colors from Bill and the lettering from Clem. But
Yeah.
it's for me, it's been, and to be speaking with you, and the comic books in Spain and France and Greece, and I don't think any of us really expected that. And for me, it's been cool just to see like the different languages, and the journey that this comic book is taking, and taken me. Fellas, what were your influences?
I would say for me, a lot of the vibe or the what I was drawing on is, well, you, but also um, like Arthur C. Clarke and like a lot of like hard sci-fi.
Mhm.
Not to spoil a lot of what we're doing here at the end, but I think um, that's what sort of attracted me to this project even too when you first pitched it, is like some of the bigger ideas in it or things that I was interested in, things I liked, which are like big hard sci-fi ideas like Arthur C. Clarke and Asimov and those kind of guys. I think I was drawing a lot from that.
Yeah, well, for me, as far as artistically, I'm drawing on myself and what I'm reading, right? I'm reading what they're writing. And Keanu was just mentioning something about the emotions and everything, and I have to feel those myself. I don't talk as much about the love and all and the pathos, as much as I talked about the violence more and everything, but there is a lot of everything in there, and there's a real balance of yin and yang to the violence and then the love, and because one doesn't exist without the other anyway. But I've had to really um, get in touch with those areas of myself to put it out onto the page. And sometimes it can be very kinetic and and rough because it's a kinetic rough story, and then there's a lot of love in there and tension and sensual tension and deceit and all kinds of different layers to it. So I've had to yes, all kinds of things that have been happening. So that's what I'm drawing from as far as drawing it. As far as reading it, my influences and everything else, I think I'm actually seeing a lot of Keanu's work in there in his film career. There's bits and pieces, and I kind of draw from that in a way. I did this last cover, this cover, which is
So good. Issue 10.
and believe it or not, it's been fun for me because I get to play with Keanu here, and even though this is supposed to be the Shroud of Turin, like I mentioned in a previous interview, there's also all these writhing bodies on his face and everything, which are supposed to represent, the angst and the pain and of all these lives that have been affected by this character. But I also drew from one of Keanu's movies, which was The Devil's Advocate. So in The Devil's Advocate, there's a scene where Kevin walks into, the devil's office, and Al Pacino standing, he's like, Kevin, she's ovulating, or whatever it is he says. And on the wall behind him, there's all these writhing bodies, and I thought to put some of that in his face here. So that's part of this too. So I'm drawing from all of it. And yeah, so it's been nothing but a gas. That's all I can say. Yeah.
Yeah, so Boom, you know, uh likes what we're doing and has been really supportive of trying to be able to tell berserker stories. And we ended up pitching to Netflix, and they've agreed to make a film. And we're talking to a Japanese anime company about potentially doing a Japanese anime. And we're trying to do a novel. And what we're hoping to do is just not tell the same story that the comic book is, be influenced by the comic book and the characters and what I call the rules of the character. It has to be 80,000 years. He's half man, half god. He's cursed by violence. But you can go into any era. You can go in the past. So you could take the character anywhere you want. But so hopefully we can do something kind of modern in a way, in the sense of through these, let the story be affected by the form, whether it's a film or an anime or a novelization. Let
Mhm.
that speak to the story and create a form of its own.